Hello, my rusty box loving friends. I'm Andy, and it's episode 24 of Anglic Robbie Żuka. So sit back for some more of the good, the bad, oh dear, and the ugly of Żuk ownership. Don't forget, the channel is bilingual. We do subs in English and Polish. So, a quick update before we get going. As I mentioned in the last video, the Gold Cav is now sold, so my commute to the yard is now in the Octavia. Before we get started with this, the yard has a brand new toy. A rather impressive Case International 956 XL. And just for fun, I want to show you the first thing that Paul made for it. A log splitter. And this was its test run. And I have to say, it's just so satisfying to watch. You can hear it reduce us to 5-year-olds. But let me ask you this. Nice. What would you like to see crushed by the log splitter? Oh. Right, well that's quite enough of that. Let's crack on. So, before I could get the Żuk into the workshop, I needed to fit a battery to the battery box that I made in the last episode. We'll return to the yard for a monumental welding session, and I think you'll really be impressed at how much we get done. But first, a short feature on a Żuk and his owners that we met the last time we were in Poland.
Yes. Hello. Daniel. Magda, lovely to meet you.
This Żuk was already a Zwombol veteran that had already driven to places like Loch Ness and Greece.
And then you did Greece.
I żeśmy go od niej kupili. No i pojechaliśmy do Grecji.
There's actually Żuk in the yard. We go straight on, but you will see.
And we'll do an update on those Żuk later in this video.
Hello. What's that? Oh, stereo. No power steering?
Power steering.
Andoria?
Andoria.
Engine not in UK at all.
The vans you'll see later have been in that yard for as long as I've known my wife, and one is getting worse and one is getting better. For clarity, I am comparing the vans to each other.
And also the brakes, original?
Brakes, yes, original.
You brave.
Ale one są wystarczające. Very good.
Before we dig deeper into the spec of this Beetle, it's scientifically proven that the subscribe button makes Żuks go faster. And it will help us grow the channel. If you clicked, thank you.
Brave Beetle.
Ah, that's great.
This is what you would like. I would be like.
No, this is way more together than mine. This is much more original.
Polish diesel. Jakbym was przewiózł tak koło 80, to z przodu nie da się wysiedzieć. Big head.
Yeah, it's okay for me. I am deaf. My wife is not.
Jest bardzo uprzykrzające. Jakbyś jechał 400 km przez 8 godzin,
400 kilometers in 8 hours.
to
Your head is spinning.
Okay. What are the negatives than sound?
nie.
No.
That's pretty good.
Pod domem paliwo odprawną.
No to nie w tym.
Nie w tym, ale też. Tak? Z czego z tego.
No z takich przeróbek, które żeśmy zrobili do Złombola, to jest wentylator, jest zmieniony, ma więcej łopatek. I był dodatkowy jeszcze wentylator z przodu z Laguny z dwójki, no i
Maximum speed?
maximum speed. Takie bardzo maksimum.
Absolutely.
150.
What, 115, yeah, 150 would be like. So on diesel, I think that's quite good. That's not bad. On closer investigation, it's understandable why it's so noisy inside. Can you imagine doing 2,000 miles in a Żuk with no insulation? These guys are heroes, because the Andoria diesel is not quiet.
I wsadziliśmy bak z Lublina, żeby miał większy zasięg, żeby nie trzeba było co chwilę stawiać i stawać i
petrol
tankować.
tank from Lublin, so it has more.
Oh, clever. Is in same location but bigger.
Jest. 60 albo 80, teraz nie jestem pewny.
60 or 80.
Żuk is 50, about 50.
Normal.
Yeah. Oh wow, that tank is huge. One benefit, yeah.
Pozytywne emocje wzbudza.
Positive emotions.
Jak jedziesz przez miasto, to wszyscy są uśmiechnięci.
Everyone smiles at you when you drive through town and they wave.
And that's so true, because just in the time that we spent with Daniel and Magda, 2 different Jeeps flashed us, and a brand new Mercedes stopped to ask us about the Żuk. Apologies for the audio in the next clip. A farmer was ploughing his field.
Wężyki paliwowe.
Wężyki z paliwa. Poszedł do jakichś tam tubylców i trzymają jakieś, no bo to gumowe, nie? Czy to facet wziął ten Serb, swoje auto, przyjechał pod Żuka, wziął Daniela, wywiózł go gdzieś tam miasto dalej, na giełdę i jeszcze zapłacił nam za ten wężyk, nie? No po prostu rzeczy.
I do have one question,
Yes.
which you might not like. I was wondering if you were able to drive around the car park.
Me?
Yeah.
Dam radę.
Próbuj.
Tylko instrukcja do...
Dwójkę trzeba trzymać. I migacze nie odbijają. Musisz pamiętać, żeby...
It's okay.
This could be interesting. Cat here showing you can drive a Żuk even with a broken toe. Which is actually pretty handy if we're going to be driving our Żuk across Europe. I mean her being able to drive, not her having a broken toe. So with the driving lesson over, it was time to say our goodbyes. But I've saved this clip from the cutting room floor.
Ale tata
did you say-
jeździł ogólnie samochodami kiedyś, nie? Dostawczymi, on był dostawcą. I jak pierwszy co Agami powiedział, że właśnie kupił Żuka, to mówi, a po cholerę.
He was not joking, he was like, no.
Źle mu się kojarzy.
Tak.
Ale to od nas...
For you.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I have to say a massive thank you to Daniel and Magda for driving across to see us at such short notice. We'll catch up with them on the Zwombol Rally next year. So we're almost at the halfway point and about to embark on the biggest single bit of work that I've ever done on my Żuk. I had no idea how bad it was gonna get. Ready? So at the moment, this angle stops here and doesn't join into this box section. And it also carries on down here too far, creating a dust trap against the side of the van. So we're going to stop it here and then fly a single strip down to the bottom. Here we go. strips were removed from both sides, it was pretty obvious that some of the outside of the Juke was made of filler. It was also a bit disconcerting that these metal struts were really not that strong. But it wasn't completely unexpected. Perhaps more surprising, though, is how the physical condition of my Juke has deteriorated so quickly outside in the UK. You can see that even under cover, the paint fades. These things rust if they're not kept dry. And my Juke was never going to be a factory restoration. I hope you forgive me for building something just a little bit stronger, faster, and weatherproof. Okay, this is what we're going to do. Angle line running down here. It's going to join to another bit of angle, which is bolted to this. It goes all the way along, and then joins up here, comes up to here. And then we'll move to doing the next one, and then the bulkhead will come out, and then we'll run angle along the bottom of the bulkhead so there's actually some strength in the floor. I've always wondered about these steps to get the firemen up to the roof. They're literally just bolted through the skin of the vehicle, so we're going to strengthen this area too. So now we're going to cut the steel. Welcome to the newly expanded workshop. And look who'd been living under my Juke. No sooner as the van was inside, we got cracking.
That looks good.
Heavy's good.
Heavy's reliable.
Making things like my battery box was suddenly going to seem so easy. As you can see, we'd start at the back where the van was reasonably solid and work our way forward to the more dodgy stuff.
Is that full of fur or something?
It could be. Yeah.
It might seem counterintuitive, welding the rotten panel to these new side supports, but look at what we're dealing with. It's a blancmange, and even the good side supports bend like this, because they cut a hole in them for the wooden floor. Anyway, we'll fit this new panel once we've changed the cross member at the very heart of the van. But first, even more filler.
You found a patch, didn't you?
You'll be surprised at just how much filler we find.
Ah.
For the yard, Christmas had come early. Ho ho, holes.
Happy about that.
So it turned out that the entire side panel has about 5 to 10 mil of filler all the way along.
Fun.
But at least it was time for something a bit more uplifting. In the third act of this episode, we get cracking. The following montage is the removal of the bulkhead, which will in future allow us to fit the bigger truck swivel chairs, but also, much more critically, it will allow us to change out the main beam. Bye bye bulkhead. The next really urgent job was to weld in a box section to hold the cab in the right place to the chassis. because if we didn't do this, nothing would line up. And this is what we're dealing with. This was the only piece of crossmember that was actually still complete. And keeping true to harder, better, stronger, faster, this is what we replaced it with. I think that'll do the job. And this is me adding a bit of paint to the exposed steel from the previous job. You can still see the rest of the beam needs removing. And here it is, what's left of it. The lower end of this should hold the wooden floor, but it's rotten, and the top part of this should support the metal floor, and that's also rotten. So this beam not only holds the sides of the van in, but it also holds both parts of the floor. So, 3 years into ownership, I can safely say, this was a rusty death trap. The entire outer sill and inner step was rotten. In this clip you can see it being removed, and I'll be replacing it with a smaller inner step that has improved drainage. But right now, I just need it to be strong, because this is what's lurking underneath the beam on both sides. Fitting the beam was a matter of trial and error, because we had new body mounts to fabricate that also needed to be welded between the B pillar of the Juke and the beam itself. Thanks to Mirac for getting the tape measure out and giving me the width of what a Juke should be. With the last welds in place, it was time to remove the crossmember and see whether the cab collapsed. What do you think? We also took the time to replace the rest of the rubber body mounts. There's still another body mount hiding at the front that we need to refabricate. And as a temporary measure, I threw on some red zinc primer. Don't hate me for the runs. How didn't I notice that? While the Juke was dry, we took the opportunity to remove the windscreen to investigate how rotten the panel under the windscreen was. There were flakes of rust dropping down onto the engine and the airbox, so we knew it wasn't great. And for reference, the Juke's windscreen is held in with a rubber seal and 2 threaded bits of rod. Thanks to Ollie for helping me get the windows out. Wow, that is the wiring.
Yeah, no.
The interior lights.
Yeah, that's probably just what was fucking holding us up, really. If not, why not?
That's the good side, right? Here's the replacement panel that we've got to get welded in. But here comes the fun part. After a bit of a clean-up, it turned out that the panel under the dashboard was also rotten through. So we got a new one made up, complete with a 45-degree bend. Unfortunately, that wasn't going to be the most intricate welding we had to do that day.
Got a new side door, mate.
After a considerable amount of cleaning up, it was time to permanently affix the new rear quarter panel. The Juke had multiple panels at different heights and angles all over the place, so it was really difficult to get the alignment right, and we made some decisions to increase the number of spot welds and even seam weld the side panel and the rear corner panel to guarantee that there was not going to be any flex in it. And given that there was basically no metal on this entire part of the Juke, this is where things started to get pretty positive for once, actually. Check those panel gaps. You'll notice that the corner is powder coated, so we proved that you can weld through the powder coating and we can prime it and the paint sticks. Big caveat here, this is just to protect the metal until we get it properly painted, but for primer, it's not a bad match. But you won't judge me on those brush strokes, will you? Joking aside, I was totally blown away with our progress.
It looks like it's been painted since last time. It's really fallen to bits now.
So this is what I'm going to leave you with. A couple of the first Jukes I ever found. In the next video, I've got an update on just how rusty the Ascona is, a little update on the engine for the yellow cav, and, well, a couple of interesting side projects that we're going to share with you. And if you like what you're seeing, literally,
Oh dear.
and the idea of boxy, retro piles of rust being put back together, and our 10,000 kilometre odyssey,
These spare parts only now, Cat.
challenges and adventures, please consider subscribing. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, major rot in the front now. Worse than mine.
On ma swojego żuka też w Anglii, przerabia go.
Oczywiście,
Yeah,
można
of course you can.
z przodu, z tyłu.
Dzięki.
Jeżeli nie w środku.
Only not inside.
Oh, I want to see inside. Dziękuję bardzo. That's just been painted. He's working hard for his life.